bring to light much more poorly than Stubborn Denial would.
So with that, we see the two players squaring off here. One will be in. You see Joe Lossett 9th in the Season 1 leaderboard. And we're underway. Jim on the play with Lumbering Falls. Joe just with a fetch land. Pass back here. And for Jim, multiple copies of Den Protector in the opener. It's a real throwback deck. He's playing 4 Death Mist Raptor, 4 Den Protector. We haven't seen that for months.
Oh, it's been a while since Death Mist Raptor has had its time in the sun. I thought it might have gone extinct, but here we see it coming back again.
Sylvan Advocate, the play there for Jim. And if you watch Joe Lossett's deck, end step, get a dual land tapped. We're going to see a lot of this in the beginning turns.
Yeah, absolutely.
This deck it's kind of a harkening back to Abzan Control. It's a very slow, grindy deck. Just playing the pound for pound kings of the format, the good cards, using Bring to Light to toolbox for the correct good card.
Something I like about Jim Davis's deck is Teamer kind of does and always has played a bunch of pain lands. Anytime anyone's played the deck, they've taken 12 off of their mana base per game. Jim Davis is actually playing 4 copies of Matter Reshaper, which takes advantage of the colorless mana off of that. I actually like that include here quite a lot.
So swing from Advocate will put Lossett down to 17. Looks like Rattleclaw Mystic from Davis, and then another copy of Lumbering Falls. Really one of the weird parts of the Teamer deck for me is you play Rattleclaw Mystic, and then your curve ends at 4.
Yes. Savage Knuckleblade is a mana sink, so you can do something with that. It's also true that with the Death Mist Raptors, the morph on the Rattleclaw Mystic helps you buy that back, though you do make a very good point about this not being a generally mana-hungry deck.
Yeah, Death Rattleclaw Mystic's not a great card to beat down with.
A 2/1 does not match up in a format of 2/3s.
2/3. It's a format of 2/3s and 1/1s, both of which it's really on the wrong side of.
Yeah, it's half of a Dragon Fodder or no significant percentage of a Reflector Mage.
Yeah. We go back over to Joe. Had talked to them about whether he'd included many of the cards from Oath of the Gatewatch. A lot of possible inclusions in Bring to Light. We talked about, Reflector Mage, Goblin Dark Dwellers are certainly I would say the standout cards so far of the set. He's not playing any of them, just has a copy of Kalitas in the main deck.
Yeah, having a tutorable graveyard card for the Rally the Ancestors deck is definitely strong. Kalitas makes more sense than Anafenza in this deck because Joe is definitely not beating down. So the ability to make zombies with removal spells matters more to Joe than the ability to pump creatures on the attack.
Just a 3rd land for Joe. So he has double black, single blue, single green, single white. Red is certainly, when you're talking to him about his deck, that's the deck color he says he is least committed to.
That's good, if that's the color that he's off here.
It's one. In the main deck, we just have 1 copy of Kolaghan's Command.
And I believe that the card that Bring to Light finds more often than any other is going to be Siege Rhino anyway. So you only need 4 colors for that one.
And we attack for 4 on Jim's side. It puts Joe down to 12, and then he plays a face-down Den Protector. Now, keep in mind in this deck, Joe does not actually know what that morph is. He teamed Jim with 3 different morphs in his main.
Yeah, there's a face-up Rattleclaw Mystic in play right now.
And Joe, going back to his turn, it's a turn 4. He still has not cast a spell. He's gone down to 11. Now, fortunately for him, he does have cards like Languish, and we just may see that. That's huge. -4/-4 is going to get Jim's entire board.
Yep. If this is anything other... Oh, it was a Den Protector, so that is great.
That's huge play there by Joe. Possibly a misstep from Jim. It was certainly an aggressive way to commit into that board.
Absolutely. Prior to his draw step here, he did not have a 5th mana, so he was thinking, just get the Den Protector on board to apply a little more pressure, and it backfired in the worst way possible.
Yeah, I mean, Joe, the Languish is a one-of Bring to Light target for Joe, and at this point, especially a player who battled him in the Players' Championship like Jim is probably aware of this fact. So my guess is he was trying to play around the odds, saying, okay, it's a one-of, perhaps Joe doesn't have it. But I think the context matters here. If it's not, the fact that Joe didn't Abzan Charm on end step there, to me would suggest that, Joe has kept hand without Abzan Charm. Maybe the odds that he has this one of Languish have increased dramatically.
Yeah, he's got to have something.
He didn't just keep Stone unplayable.
And even though Jim's board was not very impressive, he wasn't doing a lot.
Well, here comes Big Nux. It's going to come in. Haste up with a red mana. Joe down to 7. Basically the Teamer Siege Rhino.
Pretty much. You know, if there were a Teamer Siege Rhino, this would be the card. The haste on this makes up a little bit for getting Wrath on the previous turn.
Joe going to play Jace and pass no 5th land. Not able to kill Knuckleblade. That's huge.
Yeah, you know, Jim had to tap out of the ability to bounce the Savage Knuckleblade, and now he just has all of his mana again. Another Savage Knuckleblade here. That could just be the play.
Another Nux for Jim.
Especially if Jim knows it's just the one language. What could possibly go wrong?
There have been times where Joe has had 2 copies of Languish in his deck.
Okay. So I guess it depends how much these two really talk to each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. What happened is that for last weekend, Joe cut one of the Languishes for a copy of Flaying Tendrils to help his rally matchup. And so Jim's going to go the conservative side. He's going to activate Lumbering Falls and swing with Savage Knuckleblade. It's still a lethal attack.
Yep, forcing the block with Jace I like a lot.
And an end step, Hallowed Moonlight from Lossett, the card he's main decking 2 of today, expecting a lot of rally. Does not look good here.
No, it's not even a card that you can really bring to light for.
No?
Bring to light is a sorcery, yeah. And that would explain why he's playing 2 instead of just 1 bullet. Definitely showing concern for both Horde-like Outburst and Rally the Ancestors decks. I guess there are collected company decks that play neither of those cards too. And at worst, it cycles itself, though. When you're this far behind on board, that's not what you want to be doing with your mana.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to main deck the card, you're going to have to be willing to cycle it very aggressively.
Pausing, shuffling, obviously, to cast a Bring to Light. Joe has to be very conscious of clock, because this deck is slow.
It's on 4, no red mana. See what he can get. I don't believe... Yeah, he doesn't have another sweeper, so it's just going to be Siege Rhino. That'll put him up to 6. But because he tapped out for it, this is not much help for against Savage Knuckleblade.
Nope, Jim's got another Knuckleblade looming as well. If he only attacks with this one, leaving the mana up, he can pump it to its 6, kill the Rhino. If he doesn't block with the Rhino, just kills Joe, so...
Yeah, forcing a chump block there seems pretty strong. As we look back for this game, yeah.
Jim's probably thinking about what to do with the rest of his mana right now. This much is obvious for, that was going to happen this turn.
That was the easy part. And it's possible that we'll see whether Jim plays anything. I mean, now with land 6, he can just hold up Knuckleblade's abilities.
Yeah. There's no real issues with doing that. Applying a little more pressure doesn't seem terrible. He has a Den Protector that he could more face down. I can't imagine we're playing the second Knuckleblade here.
Yeah, and I mean, because he has a second Knuckleblade, he may not feel like he has to protect the first one.
Yep. Might just be Rattleclaw Mystic. It's another body that you really don't care if it dies. It's easily the worst card in your hand, yeah, so he ends up morphing the Rattleclaw.
All right, so plays a morph there. That'll play. We'll see if Joe has an answer. His one of sweeper's already gone. Looks like he's picked up a copy of Silumgar's Command. That one, well, actually can't. I don't know if that can save him.
It does not match up well against Savage Knuckleblade. Savage Knuckleblade has one too many toughness to get killed by the -3/-3 effect, and bouncing it is not worth very much.
So the danger from Joe's side is that even if he answers this board, he's dead to 1 more land plus Savage Knuckleblade. Jim could cast it, haste it, pump it, and that would be 6. Joe going to go to 5.
Finding that red mana.
Yeah, he'll get to do it via a dual land. Looks like a Smoldering Marsh. Yeah, maybe reconsider here.
There's a lot to think about with this mana base.
I've tried playing Joe's copy of this deck. A wrong fetch can cost you a game very quickly, yeah. Decides for Cinderglade over Smoldering Marsh.
Yes, so that finds him a second source of green here. He does have Den Protector in hand, so being able to unmorph that right away definitely matters.
And he'll go ahead and take a Treasure Cruise.
Yeah, he's hoping to find something better than Den Protector, though the way he's tapped his mana and how he fetched beforehand allows him to just play Den Protector face down and morph it up.
Three cards here. See what he's trying to work for. We see Siege Rhino. Silk Wrap. Silk Wrap, a fine card to have here.
Yeah, Jim is tapped down on the Knuckle Blade. He can get rid of that one.
Also has picked up a Bring to Light. So now he's contemplating just what he can bring to light for. There are not too many cards that he has to bring to light for in this situation. It still seems like Silk Wrap plus another card may be his best line.
And all of this might just be for naught given that second Knuckle Blade in Jim's hand.
All right, 5 mana from Joe. And it's going to be a Bring to Light. Let's see what he goes for. He may just be another Siege Rhino. And it is. Joe up to 8.
So now with the Rattleclaw Mystic, Jim can actually unmorph that, cast the second Knuckle Blade, haste it, and make one of them a 6. The Rattleclaw
Whichever
Mystic,
one's unblocked.
Right, the Rattleclaw Mystic will connect for 2, and Joe will be dead this turn.
Yeah, as long as his colored mana lines up, and I believe it does, that should work. Yep, Jim just counting it up himself. I'm presuming it's a Rattleclaw Mystic, which I believe it is. And this should do it. Joe, too far on the back foot with these Siege Rhinos. He got to resolve 2 Bring to Lights, but because of how low he already was on life points, yeah, he is forced to go get Rhino with them. And actually, Savage Knuckleblade seems like it's a weakness of Joe's deck here. His cards are not matching up well.
I am sure he did not build his deck with Savage Knuckleblade in mind. But yeah, it definitely looks like a chink in the armor.
So here's a second Knuckleblade. It's going to get haste. Here comes the team.
The teamer.
Ooh. Here comes the teamer. All right. And Jim being very careful, but I believe he has it. Joe will block a Knuckleblade. Rattleclaw will pump the other one, and that's 8. A nod from Joe. That's good enough, and we're on to game 2 for Jim.
Yep. So he thought a lot about what to do with his last 3 mana that last turn, and the Rattleclaw Mystic was the really only way to make it lethal that turn. So ended up picking a very good line.
So we'll go ahead and look at the sideboard. We're going to start with Joe Lossett. So with 5-color Bring to Light, he does have a lot of options in his board for this matchup. A Crackling Doom, 2 Painful Truths, 2 Negate, many one-ofs here. Hallowed Moonlight, Flaying Tendrils, Silk Wrap, Den Protector, Anafenza, Kalidas, Surge of Righteousness, and Duress. These are all good, but my first inclination is I don't see many answers to Knuckleblade.
Yeah. Primarily, Joe needs to get the main deck Hallowed Moonlights out. So, that third copy's not going to come in. Silk Wrap is not easy to catch a Knuckleblade with. The 1 Crackling Doom is definitely very good here. Surge of Righteousness is acceptable. It only matches up well against Savage Knuckleblade and only if you can't bounce it.
That's pretty conditional. I don't know if we can go that far.
Yeah, it is awkward. Can't bring to light for it either, but he has 3 copies, so.
Yeah, a lot of options, but we'll see whether or not Joe can pull this one back. Game 1 was certainly, I don't think, very inspiring there.
No.
On Jim's side of the board, he's got 3 Dispel, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 4 Radiant Flames, 2 Roast, 2 Rending Volley, and a Natural Slate.
So Jim has some main deck Fiery Impulse. They do kill Jace. They're not super exciting otherwise in this matchup. I think that Jim definitely wants Disdainful Stroke. Joe's deck's whole thing is casting spells that cost a lot of mana. So that one should definitely be coming in. The Roasts probably come in. They both kill Jace and Siege Rhino. So definitely going for that one.
Yeah, Roast does seem excellent here, as long with the Disdainful Strokes. That part seems pretty evident. Good spot here for Jim then. That game seems very good. I know Joe has talked before about how Megamorph was a difficult matchup for him because he had trouble dealing with the Death Mist Raptor Den Protector package. They actually could out late game him. Now, good news for the Bring to Light deck is that Megamorph has all but fallen off the map right now. Jim is one of the few kind of playing a retro deck here by playing both those cards.
Blast from the past. Fitting to have Raptors in such a deck.
It's the ancient strategy of Teamer.
Back when people thought Savage Knuckleblade was playable.
I mean, look at Rattleclaw Mystic. That's pretty shamanistic, prehistoric.
Yeah. He is playing Jace, so I
don't know about that. Yeah.
That one doesn't really fit in.
Matter Reshaper is kind. I don't know about that guy. He's an Eldrazi, I suppose.
Unless Jim was playing Jace before it was cool.
Oh, gross. Okay, well, excellent. Players are shuffling up here for Game 2. Well, one thing I want to talk about, if you can make your way over to a Star City Games Open, we always build up to our Invitational, and more recently we are giving away the tokens of our most recent Invitational champion, and that's Caleb Schur. Last December, Caleb Schur took a 3-3 start to the Invitational to rattle off 9 wins to make the top 8, followed by 3 to getting his way all through the top 8 with Abzan aggro, defeating Vidianta Wijaya. And because of that permanence, that's why you see his likeness on a card. It is a Storm Counter. Will be given away with all our Open participants, all our Sunday Classic participants. And if you can't make it out to event, it is in all orders from StarCityGames.com of at least $5. If you want to get your hands on this one, we'll be giving this away for all of Season 1, so that's through the middle of April. I gotta admit, I am just happy to see a Storm Counter finally get made. That one's pretty good. This is one that I certainly will use.
Now, if you're not a Storm player, you might think, the Caleb Schur Storm Counter, not for me. I never need to keep track of Storm, but I think, give it a try. Just use that when you're playing a regular deck of Magic. Play a spell,
all right,
grab your Schur counter, put a die on it. See what your opponent does.
Like, yeah, I got Storm here. What?
Storm is 1?
Storm is 1.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that's not obnoxious at all.
No, not even a little bit.
That.
Yeah, that's a thing that a reasonable human being would do.
So every time your opponent plays a spell, you're just going to have to stop, be like, wait, and then just up the die.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Think about something for a second, update the Storm Counter.
Are we keeping track of it on our opponent's turn, too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Represent that brain freeze.
Especially in Standard. That seems like the place you want to be doing it. I mean, you can be like, see, it even works for counting your Surge cards in Standard.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, this is perfect. You should play this with a Tarka Red, put the Storm Counter at 1, and then Surge your Reckless Bushwhacker.
Like, yeah, Storm's 1. This guy is green-lighted. All right, Game 2 here. Jim Davis, Joe Lossett. Jim starting on Lumbering Falls again. And for Joe's side, one of the things I think that'll be challenging for him this game is to find an identity for the late game. We saw Joe actually resolve multiple copies of Bring to Light. And despite the fact that his deck is very slow and very 5-color, I was finding it difficult for him to grab board control. You were looking at his deck and all things he can tutor for, and it just didn't seem like he was going to be able to stabilize.
It was basically just a 5-mana Rhino, and we've talked about how good Siege Rhino's been in this tournament. We all know that it's a great card, but against Savage Knuckleblade, it leaves something to be desired.
Yeah, at 5 mana, Rhino does lose some of its appeal. That'll be Jace for Joe.
Yeah.
And for Jim, it's Rattleclaw Mystic.
Jim was just thinking, you looked through your whole deck and that's all you found?
He found chump blockers with it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not exactly what you'd want. Well, loot's going to come the way of Joe. He'll discard Polluted Delta and fetch away, looks like Bloodstained Mire, building up toward that graveyard. And I'll just pass. Not fetching it just yet. Keep in mind, the early game spell for Joe Lossett is Abzan Charm, so with this mana, he's not going to be able to do it.
Nope. At least a turn off of that.
So we go back to Jim. Couple lands, a Collected Company hanging out in his hand. Den Protector. Believe he has one of his copies of Disdainful Stroke. Be interested to see how soon he wants to start leaving that one up.
Definitely. I have a feeling that you want to start leaving it up on 5, unless your hand is very weak to Siege Rhino.
Well, Rattleclaw will swing. Jim will play a Jace. Play a Wandering Fumarole. And then pass the turn. So a lot of manlands here from Tim. Something you can say, about Teamer. It's got a lot of manlands.
Yes, that is something you can say about it.
It's got a lot of the creature lands, a lot of the pain lands.
I like the play of Jace by Jim this turn instead of playing the untapped land and leaving up Collected Company. This way, if Joe has access to a Languish, you might just force the issue with Jace. Joe does have his own Jace, so it's not great. But if Joe does commit to something higher impact, then you just still have the Collected Company in hand. Also, this way your land comes into play untapped next turn. And so, yeah, I like the Jace here a lot better than casting Collected Company.
Yeah, make it into a Jace fight here. Joe has to decide whether or not he wants Jace to flip or not to flip. Does he want to cast, say, an Abzan Charm first?
Yeah, Jace flipping on this board is very good if Jim does not have a Savage Knuckleblade, because you get to blank the power on the Radiclaw Mystic.
And this play here by Joe, I like this a lot. It's Kolaghan's Command, dealing 2 to the Jace and having Jim discard a card. We'll also put the 4th card in the graveyard for Joe's Jace. That means it'll flip after activating.
Yep, this is huge. The other nice thing about this play, when you have that Jace Planeswalker in play, with the access to the Kolaghan's Command, if Jim does not have another land, Joe does not know that he does to certain, then you can kill the Radiclaw Mystic and set Jim back to 3 mana.
Jim discarding a Wooded Foothills. And for Joe, it's just another tap land. It's Canopy Vista. He'll pass.
I bet Joe does a lot of that.
A lot of land to go.
Yeah.
For Davis, the draw was Disdainful Stroke. He's got a lot of control cards in hand, but he doesn't have a way to answer this Jace on the table just yet, and that may become a problem.
Yes. Yeah, at this stage, if he wants to deal with that Jace, he's got to find a way to attack it after it flips. And there's at least one good spell to flashback already with it.
And Jim, the Rattleclaw beats continue. Now, Joe can prevent the damage here if he wanted to.
Yep, you can go ahead and block with the Jace, activate it, go ahead and flip it. He might think with the red mana up here in Jim that he's trying to bait him into this, but yeah, he goes ahead and activates.
Yeah, it would be a bait if Jim had a removal spell in response to this activation. But he does not. Jace discards away a Wooded Foothills and flips into the Telepath Unbound. 5 loyalty.
It's a lot of loyalty for 2 mana.
And Jim's going to take this tap out opportunity to cast Collected Company. And a big hit. That's a ton of pressure. Deathmist Raptor, Matter Reshaper, and Savage Knuckleblade. Not only does he get 2 creatures, but he gets 2 3-drops.
Yep. And with the Rattleclaw Mystic in hand, the configuration of Deathmist Raptor and Matter Reshaper is very inviting here, because even if Joe just kills them both, you get one back with the Mystic, the other one replaces itself naturally.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. The teams are passing up on Big Nux, And
yeah.
That's why we play Teamer.
That's true. There's really no other reason to play this deck.
So, and he's going to do it. Bold. We're going to win with some 3/3s and some 3/2s. We're going to assemble this motley bunch of 3-drops and beat down.
He probably hurt Savage Knuckleblade's feelings with this move.
Just on the bottom of the deck. No one can hear him crying down there.
No.
So we go back to Joe. We'll see what he can put together. Now facing down 8 power. And it looks like we might start off with an Abzan Charm. We'll see which one he wants to charm. Both are really inviting options.
Yeah, Abzan Charm stops the Matter Reshaper from replacing itself, but the Knuckleblade would not have fared better there either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was wondering whether he'd get the Death Mist as well. Because, both cards that I think you want to exile. So he exiles Matter Reshaper, plays another Jace, ticks up his Jace, shrinking down Deathmist Raptor, and then he'll pass.
Yeah, the choice of which creature to shrink here actually is not worth very much. you're probably taking 3 if both of those creatures attack anyway.
Yeah. By shrinking the Death Mist, you're forcing Jim to swing the Rattleclaw as opposed to leaving it back for mana. So it's just the right play, I believe, by Joe.
Yeah, that's definitely why you choose the Raptor.
And I suppose if Jim really wants to try to hit down the Jace, he does have the Wandering Fumarole in play. But, my guess is mana is going to be spent elsewhere. We see both the creatures attacking here, though. And I don't know where he sent them. They might have just been upstairs.
Yeah, looks like both players were adjusting the life totals there.
Face down creature for Jim, and he'll pass. Yeah, Joe goes to 13. No respect for the Jace.
Well, there's another Jace on the table, right? How much damage can you really do by attacking it?
Heads up by Jim. I'm inclined to agree with you there. So we have Flooded Strand, Abzan Charm, hanging out in Joe's hand.
Yeah, the 2 copies of Abzan Charm are pretty huge for Joe. There's 2 ways to exile what would normally be a great find for Jim with Collected Company. It's still a 2-for-1.
Well, there's still the problem here that Jim has a Den Protector back Collected Company, you know? And this is something Joe's talked about, why these Megamorph decks can be very difficult for him to deal with, is that Joe's playing really good cards that on the surface are efficient. They're 2-for-1s. You know, Rhino is basically a 2-for-1, maybe even a 3-for-1. Abzan Charm's a 2-for-1, but it's not operating on the same level of synergy that Den Protector getting back Collected Company, getting Den Protector, getting Death Mist is doing.
Yeah, Joe's deck, it generates value, but it generates that value on the basis that my deck is full of good Magic cards.
Yeah.
Jim's deck is not full of good Magic cards, but it is full of cards that can generate a lot of value in tandem.
So Abzan Charm away the Death Mist. He'll pass Jim, going to Den Protector back Collected Company. Big play. He's tapped down. We'll see whether or not Joe wants to make an Abzan Charm play. I think he's going to charm away the Den Protector. Yeah, that will save his own Jace, but you know, if you're Joe Lossett, you're not happy to be using your Abzan Charm that way.
Yeah, you are crossing your fingers that this Collected Company misses, or is nowhere near as good as the first one, which, to be fair,
yeah.
To be fair, Jim's first Collected Company was above average, but now he has 2 copies in his hand. He's gonna find something.
Yeah, and you look what Jim has. He has he has 2 Collected Companies, and a Disdainful Stroke in hand, along with another Rattleclaw.
This is just great for Jim.
It is not shabby. Now, he can't... We'll see how he uses the Rattleclaw here. If he doesn't attack with the Rattleclaw, it's another flashback for that Jace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you have to pick between pressuring Jace. Oh, well looks like he's chose not to pressure Jace.
He's going to go for the Collected Company, and I like that, too. We see Sylvan Advocate. There's Savage Knuckleblade again. There's a Jace. There's a Death Mist. Huge numbers of options for Jim. He is playing a 27 creature deck. These Collected Companies will be fantastic.
Looks like he's leaning towards the 2 creatures that cost 3 mana over the creatures that cost 2 mana.
Well, that's just kind of the way it works, right? I mean, you're paying the price of Collected Company no matter what for 4 mana. So if you're getting 6 mana worth of cards, it's likely that will just be more efficient than what the other play you could be making.
Yep, the only real strong consideration there was the Jace for his Prodigy, which can generate value. But having the second copy of Collected Company, don't really need that.
Now,
just need some power on the table.
How did you feel about there? Jim had the option to haste the Knuckleblade and hit Jace.
Well, considering he's already tapped his Rattleclaw Mystic for mana, he is committed to leaving up Disdainful Stroke. Once you find Knuckleblade, you do have to reevaluate that, but I think that you probably just stay the course.
Joe said he's going to give flashback to yet another spell. Believe Abzan Charm.
And also, given the fact that Jim just has that second Collected Company, after Joe kills these creatures, he's out of gas or close, and then Jim just has another great piece of action.
Yeah, Abzan Charm will take care of Savage Knuckleblade. I think the reason I would want to haste there is because I already know that if I leave the Jace around, my Savage Knuckleblade is going to get Abzan Charmed. I mean, I guess you'd be worried that if you do that Joe will bring to light for Languish.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe you can lose the game from there.
Yeah, that would put you significantly far behind. You'd be banking a lot harder on the company. And you also wouldn't have the mana next turn with your Mystic dead to cast that and leave up Disdainful Stroke.
And this is just Jim's draw for the turn, a copy of Den Protector. And this is getting farther away from Joe. The card advantage stream that Jim's creating here is just overpowering the Bring to Light deck. Swing of Death Mist. Jace will block, it will loot. Discard as a land, flips into a Planeswalker. That's just a pass from Jim. Can hold up both Disdainful Stroke and Collected Company on the end step.
Yep, Jim is pretty committed to doing that just for the rest of the game, or until he counters a spell.
Joe's draw for the turn, a copy of Kalidas, Trader to get. He'll go ahead and evaluate here. Looks like he may want to go for the Vampire. There's 4 mana. Going to be tapped, and into play is the Vampire. 3/4, it'll stop those death triggers. So in case Jim was hoping that Death Mist Raptor was going to go to the graveyard and come back, Kalidas will put a stop to that.
Yeah, Kalidas is pretty strong in this matchup.
It's well known that vampires do prey upon raptors.
Yeah, that's just common knowledge.
Though disdainfully, Kalidas will be struck down. That one's countered. And Joe will go for a Silk Wrap. And that's going to take care of the Death Mist.
Jim says, whatever. I got 2 more where those came from.
Jace up to 6. And then here's the big play. It's Collected Company number 3 from Jim. Joe had tipped up to 6. Is there enough power in here to take care of the Jace? And it looks like there is. Matter Reshaper and Death Mist Raptor are the 2 finds.
So I said earlier that the Matter Reshaper Raptor Collected Company was above average. Maybe maybe that's just the line.
Average.
That's just what he does every time.
It's his 3rd company that has found double 3-drop. I mean, when you're playing 4 Knuckle Blades, 4 Matter Shapers, and 4 Death Mist Raptors, it's not unreasonable that you're just going to hit 2 of them every time you company.
Yeah. That's what he wants to do.
And here's the swing in, and Jace is off the board. Den Protector face down as the play. There's not enough mana yet for Jim to get back Disdainful Stroke and cast it. If Joe doesn't hit something big this turn, I think it's over for him.
I'm not sure why Jim did not get in with the Rattleclaw Mystic on this previous turn. He only really needs 2 mana up to activate his Morph here, flip up that Den Protector. So it looks like he's leaving 1 mana or 2 points on the table here.
He did play. So, yeah, the question would be what would he be leaving up the 3 mana for?
He's not realistically even representing the stubborn denials that aren't in his deck for starters, but he's not ferocious.
Well, he'll go ahead and Den Protector back, another Collected Company. And the onslaught of card advantage continues. Silk Wrap took care of the Matter Reshaper. But 6 power on the board for Jim. Joe down to 13, and Joe down to 1 card.
Yeah, Jim has not been able to get value off of his creatures, but he's gotten tons off of his Collected Companies, so it really has not mattered.
Here's a land for Jim. Down to 19, he's fetching. And I like the style of these 3/3s here, just continuing to force Joe to answer every creature. And their abilities haven't really mattered, right? Matter Reshaper has never actually triggered.
Nope.
Death Mist has not come out of the graveyard. It's just like he's just Collected Company for Hill Giants.
Gnarled Masses, actually.
Oh, okay. All right, for Gnarled Masses.
Hill Giant is a 4 mana spell. That would be an illegal find.
That's a good point. Gnarled Mass was a spirit, though. That's some upgrade.
That's true. It has a relevant creature type.
Yeah. Death Mist Raptor, I mean, what's that? That's a lizard?
Does Death Mist Raptor have Soul Shift?
Well, Gnarled Mass doesn't have Soul Shift, but his friends might. Or if you had a Tallowisp, it could find you an Aura. There's a lot of reasons you'd need to play Gnarled Mass over Death Mist Raptor.
A lot of ins and Magic is a complex game.
I mean, look at that guy. Lizard Beast? That doesn't... I mean, what are we, Contested Cliffs? I just don't see it. And Joe, just a land and a pass. Down to 7. He's now facing lethal on Jim's side. And it'll be the team from Jim Davis. Can Joe survive the turn?
Shrug of the shoulders, swing of the team. Tell me if you're dead.
He's got an utter end, and that's not going to do it. So Jim Davis, 2-0, Teamer Company defeats 5-color Bring to Light. Jim, our player's champion, is on to day 2. And for Joe Lossett, the streak of top 8s ends at 3. Still, though, what an impressive run for him.
Yeah, and you can't complain about 3 consecutive top 8s. Missing today might suck, but I'm sure that Joe is not too bummed about being able to play a Classic Legacy tomorrow.
Yeah, he has. His record in the Sunday Classics in Legacy has been nothing short of stellar. I can't imagine. Imagine there'll be plenty of opportunities for him to pick up points in those.
This is a man who plays Miracles for fun.
Fair enough. Well, congratulations to Jim Davis.